The Selfish Path to Romance. Download Chapter 1 for free at drkenner.com.
Here is a question I received from Sherry. Now, what happens? You have an aunt whose son dies, and she's driving you crazy. And see how you would handle this type of a situation. Dear Dr. Kenner, what do I say to my aunt who is mourning the loss of her son Tom, but she's making it her personal mission to reconnect my relationship with my mother? She manipulates through statements like, put on your big girl panties and do the right thing, and nothing will heal the pain of my losing my son more than you and your mother making up. How do I help her understand that her pain is not in my hands? And although meddling in other people's problems may make her feel better at the moment, the more she spends time on that, she's evading her own healing process. And frankly, it hurts me as well! ! Thank you, Sherry. So Sherry, she's trying to manipulate you with unearned guilt. You are totally right. The problem with your mother, your relationship with your mother, is your concern. I'm assuming that she's totally detached from it, like she wasn't the one that caused it in the first place. So we'll set that aside and we'll just assume that it's a private issue between you and your mother. Your mother said you had words with your mother, or your mother was too intrusive in your life, or maybe she hated the person that you married and who's a very nice guy, and you just are not going to reconnect on her terms. Whatever it is your problem, not your aunt's. So how do you set a boundary with somebody when they're going through probably the most painful period in their own life, the grief of their own son? So you need to separate those two issues out. Her grief at losing her son Tom, and the second issue is her desire for you and your mom to reconnect. So you can certainly express your grief. It's so sad that you lost your son. You know, he was such a nice guy, assuming he was. And you can express that. Keep those feelings with your aunt separate. Then separately, you can speak with her. You need to set a boundary. And just because she's going through grief doesn't give her a carte blanche to tell you to put on your big girl panties. You know, if a relative said that to me, I think I would be blown away. Hopefully I would have a little twinkle in my eye and say, well, that's a curious one. But you can say to her, you know, you could, first you want to ask yourself the question, Sherry, why is it so important to her that Mom and I get back together? Why is she, what's in it for her? Just so you get her context a little bit. And then you can go up to her and say something along the lines such as the following.
Hey, I got to interrupt this because we've got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, that's it. A very quick ad, and then Ellen will be back.
Romance. I wish I knew more about what girls want from a relationship. Boy, I wish I knew more about what I want. Where's that ad I saw? Here it is. The Selfish Path to Romance, a serious romance guidebook. Download Chapter 1 for free at selfishromance.com and buy it at amazon.com. The Selfish Path to Romance. That is interesting.
Go up to her and say something along the lines such as the following. You know, I hear, Auntie, how important it is for you to see me and Mom reconnect. It is a private matter. I'm an adult, and I find it offensive to be told to put my big girl panties on. I expect something a little more civil of you. I am taken aback that you're using the death of Tom, the death of your son, to try to pressure me to act against my own judgment. So what you're doing there is you're naming the issue that she's hoping you won't name because she's going through grief. If Tom was a really decent person too, you could add, I don't think Tom would have admired that. You could say, I hope you give your grieving for Tom the respect it deserves, and I hope you respect my privacy. Now, hopefully, that will give her food for thought. You may have to repeat it once or twice, but it sets a boundary. And it lets her know that the grieving is separate from your relationship with your mother. Now, a quick word on your relationship with your mother. When any of us have cutoffs with prime family members, like our father or mother or brother, it's usually painful, even if we've gotten some closure on it. There's a really good book called You're Wearing That by Deborah Tannen, and it's about mothers and daughters. And I'm maybe 2/3 of the way through it. I found it fascinating because there's a real tension between moms and daughters, or parents and kids. And that's that as kids, we want our independence, we want our autonomy, and we also want the connection with our parents and the nurturing. And finding that fine line is very difficult. Now, it could be that you've separated from your mother for reasons totally apart from that. That is a nice resource, and if you do want to give that some attention, you certainly could. If you're not in any pain, then I will also keep my boundaries and not give you unsolicited advice.
And here's a little more from Dr. Kenner.
Here is one question I received from somebody who's very depressed. Dear Dr. Kenner, I know that I'm depressed. It's 5 days and I feel very bad. When I come home at 5 p.m. after 10 hours of work, I like to sleep to escape. I do not like to do anything in recent days. I don't like to smile. I don't like to speak with others. I just like to sleep. Please help me. You're sleeping to escape. That is the problem. What you want to do is ask yourself, why am I feeling depressed? You've got to give it content. Just don't leave it at the emotion. There's a fabulous book, Mind Over Mood, that you can get at my website, drkenner.com. But also getting up and exercising rather than being in bed helps too, because you're implicitly valuing yourself more.
For more Dr. Kenner podcast, go to drkenner.com and please listen to this ad.
Here's an excerpt from The Selfish Path to Romance, the Serious Romance Guidebook by clinical psychologist Dr. Ellen Kenner and co-author Dr. Edwin Locke, who's world famous for his theories in goal setting.
Loving couples selfishly want to give their partners as much pleasure as possible. However, there are two ways that focusing too much on your partner can undermine sexual pleasure. One way is to let your mind anxiously wander, worrying, what's my partner thinking about me? This is usually due to some self-doubts. Here are some examples of pleasure-blocking, anxiety-provoking thoughts. Does what I'm doing look foolish? Am I making too much noise or too little? Am I too fat, too skinny, too unmuscular?
You can download Chapter 1 for free by going to drkenner.com. And you can buy The Selfish Path to Romance at amazon.com.